Welcome back, Robbie Fox from Barstool. We talked a little bit. You can go check that out on the Patreon, patreon.com/another MMA podcast. But I talked about how much I loved your Conor content. The one specific thing I forgot to bring up was outside of his court case with the sign movement in the camera shot.
Yeah.
God,
Oh, yeah.
that was so the wherewithal that you have to have, and I'm sure that guy, if he didn't see it, maybe tip of the cap to you, because like it was a war between you and that cameraman.
And I didn't even know like if I was really getting in the shot or not. I was just assuming like based on where I was. So I was just hoping, and that's part of the reason why I was moving so much because I was like maybe if like I didn't know how much was obscuring things. So it was like maybe if I just get a little bit, but I wound up just in the entire shot and him trying to move me. It's such a funny gif now. It's one of my favorites.
I love it, man. Just epic content around that time, and to see the relationship between you guys grow, it's quite the story.
It's
You should
crazy.
do it. You should do like a Notorious documentary style thing, just about your fandom relation, like your
It's actually
rise
a
to
very good idea. I might steal that. I might fucking write it down somewhere and take it.
it's all you. I think it could be really, really funny, and you guys have the resources to do that. Because man, it's a meteoric rise to the number one fan in the world of Conor
It
McGregor.
it blows my mind. I do not understand it. It's still crazy.
Well, congrats on all the success, and thank you for spreading MMA to the Barstool audience. I talked to you off air a little bit. No one, you can't find someone to really talk the nitty gritty about MMA, can you?
There's a few fans in the office, but a lot of them are. I mean, we're getting like some people more into it. I would say the people that are the most into MMA at Barstool are Jack Mack, who writes about college football, Spider, who's like office manager transitioning into content now. He does a bunch of NASCAR stuff. He does hysterical NASCAR streams where he's like on these professional iRacing streams with people from the South that are just screaming at him because he doesn't know how to drive, and they actually like pay for entry into the league. It's funny stuff, but we
He
really don't have like hardcore MMA fans in the
mm.
company now.
What and with your I've heard, is Spider the one that got $10,000 on the
Yeah.
Dave Portnoy, but yeah, and I need to check out his content at your recommendation, but there was an outpouring of support for him. He seems to be a very popular guy at the company and a really nice
We
guy.
love him. He's I mean, he's been the office manager for so long now, for years, and he does his job so well. He books like everyone's flights, everyone's travel, everyone's rental cars, everyone's if you need something, you go to Spider, he gets it done. So like he's built so much love
The
and
Burt
trust with
Watson.
everyone at Barstool. Yeah, literally. It's like if you need anything, Spider is your guy. So like him sort of transitioning into content, we're all trying to help him out and kind of give him the help that he's given us.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Take that, Barstool haters. That's a heartwarming story. And then where were we? Where were we heading? The guys that are in MMA, and with your guys' push into betting, like to me, I didn't gamble. I became a hardcore MMA fan before I gambled, and then I started gambling on it. There's nothing like watching a fight that you have money on. You can watch like any other sport. Like I know there's live betting now too, but I'm telling you, have 15 minutes, especially. I've bet overs, like over 1.5 with some
Yeah.
heavyweights fighting. It is so. The one I did recently was Derek Brunson versus Edmund Shabazian. Over
Yeah.
over 1.5 rounds. Everybody thought Edmund was gonna dominate Derek in the first round. Every movement, every feint is so tense. It's a very enjoyable
Yeah.
experience. I know you don't have the itch, but I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I'm not a betting man myself. I have bet on fights before. Like previously, I've bet on Conor fights. I remember when Conor was on the rise and you could still get him as an underdog when he was like against some wrestlers. I remember I bet him as an underdog against Eddie Alvarez at one point, which like still I'm like, how is he an underdog in that fight with anyone's line? But yeah, it just never was my thing. I feel like I get enough at stake watching the fights, especially now interviewing some of these guys. Every time I interview someone, I get so attached that when they fight, my heart starts beating. I'm also just an anxious kid. So my
Mhm.
heart starts beating like crazy. And I'm like, oh man, they gotta win. They gotta win. Come on, you can do it. I'm like, I can't involve money in that now too.
I feel you. I don't know why I do it to myself. Also, some anxiety, and then I've been drinking Bang recently, which is not
Oh,
helpful.
dude, that's the worst for you. You got to get some. I mean, no free ads, but I got green tea all the time. That's like the most. I got a little bonsai tree on my can. That's like the
Yeah.
most calm thing I could get.
It was a long editing night, only a couple hours of sleep, and a
Fair enough.
bunch of these in a row. It's time to push through. But anyways, we're here to talk about the co-main event. And that part was definitely going to be more fun, I feel like, than talking about this co-main event. It's not my favorite fight, but you actually picked it at getting nearly a clean slate. Yorgan de Castro versus Carlos Felipe. Kind of just a heavyweight fight. Usually these co-mains, when you have a name like Holly Holm, it seems like they want to put a prospect in there. I don't think either of these guys are ever going to be championship caliber. What made you want to talk about this one?
So what made me want to pick this? I picked the main event for the prelims, and I didn't want to be the guy that's like, give me the main event, main event. But I was looking at the card, and it's kind of a thin card. So then I looked at these two guys' records. They're heavyweights, first of all. We always gotta love a heavyweight battle in the UFC, at least in like the first round. Sometimes they friggin' gas right away, and you're like, all right, let's just move on with the next fight. I wish I could veto like the third round of some heavyweight fights and just be like, you both lose. But
Yes.
I looked at their records, and I realized Yorgan de Castro and Jordan, what's his name? Jordan Felipe?
Carlos.
Carlos Felipe. Why did I say Jordan? Where did that come from? I don't know.
Jordan
Both
Williams
of these
on there.
guys are coming off pretty much similar losses, like pretty disappointing decision losses. Yorgan de Castro, on the other hand, is coming off a very high-profile one against Greg Hardy. Everyone was watching that. A lot of people were behind him, rooting for him to take Greg Hardy's head off. I was one of them, of course. Now, when you're coming off one of those, coming off hungry, you want that knockout, you want the win. I think he's going to get it. I also just think he's the better fighter, to be honest with you. I think he is a pretty heavy favorite in this fight. Is Yorgan de Castro? What's his line on that? Do you have it?
Yeah, he's minus 245, which when we're talking heavyweights, that's always a big deal. Or
Yeah.
that's always a pretty wide line.
So I don't think it's a hot take by any stretch of the imagination, but I definitely think losing to Greg Hardy in that disappointing decision manner will play a factor in his motivation towards this one.
Yeah, when you watch these guys fights, like you said, even their losses were very similar. Despite the high profile nature of the Greg Hardy fight, I do not remember the Greg Hardy fight as much because Yorgan likes leg kicks. Did he leg kick him in that fight, or did he just not use it?
He was so hesitant to pull the trigger on everything from what I remember. He was one of those, it was like when you personally get frustrated watching him fight because you're like, dude, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Yeah.
I feel like a shithead saying that because I would never say it to his face, but hopefully he's not listening.
Oh man, the more I talk about fights, and I'm talking about like every fighter, and I'll just be like, I don't think this guy is that good. Just in the back of my mind, it's like, yeah, they might hear this.
I
And
know
I'm,
it's the internet. It lives forever.
yeah. I'm just trying to do my best, guys. I don't know shit.
No, me neither. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both you and me both.
Yeah, but it's. I think most of them. There's a lot that have a good sense of humor about it. Do you follow MMA Roasted on Twitter?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Adam Hunter. Really funny guy. Great joke writer. He goes after everybody pretty ruthlessly, and I mean, he's talked about like most of them have a really good sense of humor. It's rare that someone really takes offense if they know it's coming from a good place.
Yeah, I've had very good experiences with fighters in the past, especially with fighters where I've pushed the boundaries, with a blog headline where I'm like, you want to see a dead body or something. And it's like, oh,
That's still one of the coolest things about MMA, despite how popular the sport has gotten. And honestly, the real reason is probably because these guys don't make much money. So like media appearances and stuff have more value to them than an NBA player making tens of millions of dollars. Point being, MMA guys still very accessible. Like you DM one of these guys and the chance of getting written back compared to like an NBA player who has like a million thoughts just in there probably.
Yeah.
They're very personable, and then of course like most of them are like martial artists, very disciplined, thoughtful guys, wide range of personalities.
They're all stoners that listen to Joe Rogan, and interested in, helping their mental health and psyche. It's great talking to fighters nowadays. It's nothing
Exactly.
like, I would say, like the old days of like the Tito Ortizes and the Chuck Liddells. Although I just had an interview today with Forrest Griffin, and he's one of those guys that's works at the Performance Institute now, and he's all about the technicalities and the diet and the training regimen. So, who knows? Maybe back in the day they were turning things around.
And are you uh sorry, Forrest Griffin, he's fucking hilarious. I'm a
So
huge
funny, yeah. It was a great interview.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I was gonna ask. Yeah, it was an interview that's available now.
So when does this come out?
Uh, Saturday morning.
Oh yeah, it's available now then, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. I'll definitely check that out. Actually, that brings me on. To be honest, burying the lead with you, you're fresh off getting the hottest scoop in the MMA world. Dana White saying he offered contracts to Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor. What would you say you're not a betting man? What would you say? What would you line this at? This fight happening in the next 6 months?
In the next 6 months. Man, Connor keeps saying he wants the fight, right? And the whole way Connor went about this seemed like a chess match, seemed like negotiations where he said, I'm going to offer it as a charity bout. And then he got the UFC to offer it as a real bout, which, if you connect the dots, seemed like that was probably what he wanted all along, right?
Absolutely.
That doesn't seem like a crazy stretch. I would say plus 225. In the next 6 months, I'm still with Connor so hesitant to believe he's going to get into the octagon until the ink is dried. And I like keep myself back from getting excited about it because, look at the past few years, he hasn't fought a ton. But I think there's a chance. I definitely think there's a chance.
Yeah, I can't agree enough with I'm not counting any chickens before they hatch. It happens with me with all sports. I try to avoid the buildup because I get so amped for it, and especially with so many fights fall through in MMA,
it's
you just got to ignore.
People don't even understand it. Like when you get so excited for like the fucking Super Bowl, the finals, the World Series, the Stanley Cup,
and then the Super Bowl doesn't
if someone
happen.
Gets hurt, if someone gets hurt on the team, like it is what it is.
Yeah,
it's like no, it's just not happening anymore. We got excited for Khabib versus Ferguson how many friggin' times? I mean, literally 5 times over the course of history. We've got excited for this fight. Never again will they get me again with that fight.
This is a smaller scale to some, but to me just as important as Khabib Tony. I need to see Ayan Kutalaba versus Magomed, and we just cannot get that fight or get it properly. Anyways, we had the bunk.
And even fingers crossed, we've got a week left for Korean Zombie and Brian Ortega. That one got delayed a bunch as well.
That's one I've completely avoided the news, forgot it was coming up, and now I'm mad at you because you
yeah, I know. Hopefully I didn't jinx it. Knock on wood.
The Conor Donald Cerrone fight really popped up out of nowhere. It seemed like all of a sudden they were fighting in 2 months, and that went by pretty quick. So
yeah, they announced it on Thanksgiving. I remember I was sitting at the Thanksgiving dinner table, and it was just like, hey, I'm fighting Cowboy. It was crazy.
Word. Well, yeah, so we covered that co-main event fight. It's minus 245, Jorgen. What's Jorgen by decision? Cause he says he swings with everything. Both these guys have went to decisions recently against other guys with knockout power. Felipe by decisions plus 720, plus 312 for Castro by decision. I think that is my best bet, to be honest.
Sounds good to me. I'm not a betting man, but that sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, it'll probably be a stay away, honestly, just because these heavyweight fights,
two coming off losses.
Yeah, who knows? I like your Jorgen might feel like his last fight against Greg Hardy, Greg Hardy's kind of this circus sideshow almost, whereas now he's like, okay, I'm fighting the real competition and be really motivated to come back.
No crowd to worry about, none of that.
Awesome. Thanks, Robbie. Give a quick main event pick.
You know what? I like Holly Holm a lot. I think Aldana's going to take it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm leaning. I still want to watch a couple of actually Holmes' recent fights. I haven't watched. I don't think her last two main events. Like I missed them because these are sometimes take off cards for like this card leaves a lot to be desired. To be honest. And I'm not one to say that just because there's not name value. Like I love being like, no, that fight's gonna be a banger.
But you know what? At the same time, it's always these cards that we underestimate that overperform.
Yeah, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Me too. I'm hoping for a lot of finishes. That's my favorite thing as a Barstool like blogger. If you could give me knockouts, every knockout's a blog for me. So I'm like, give me knockouts.
I like that. Who doesn't love the knockout? Well, Robbie, we know we can find you at Barstool. What's your favorite thing you got coming up, cooking?
Well, the interviews on My Mom's Basement that I've been doing recently have been a lot of fun. I just had Forrest Griffin on, like I mentioned. I had Tommy Lee from Motley Crue on, which blew my mind. I'm like a lifelong rock and roll Motley Crue fan. Crue's like I was raised on them. Dana White I have on almost monthly, which it blows my mind. Like I said, that's not even a scheduled thing. I just get a call like once a month, like, do you want to interview Dana? I'm like, yes, every single time I do. So My Mom's Basement, yeah, I would say check out that podcast. And then if you're a fan of Barstool and Rough and Rowdy and stuff, we're bringing Rough and Rowdy back in October, so look out for it.
In October?
Oh, yeah.
I love it. Moving with Dana White level quickness.
Yeah.
Piece that card together. Awesome, man. We'll be on the lookout for all that. Really, thanks for doing this. I'm trying to talk about like pretty much every UFC fight. So a lot of spots to fill. So you're welcome back anytime.
Hell yeah, anytime.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.